All right, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. This is Brian Funk. I make music as AfroDJMac, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Thomas Glendinning. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Going great. So, Tom is a fellow Ableton certified trainer out in London, so about 5 hours in the future, I think, from me
Yeah,
here in New
yeah,
York. Very cool. So, how's
yeah,
things going? Enjoying yourself?
yeah,
Hot summer?
all good. We just moved to London at the beginning of the year from Cape Town, South
Hmm.
Africa. So it's
So that's
been,
got to be an adjustment.
yeah, I mean, Cape Town is like takes you 20 minutes to drive across the city, whereas London takes you several hours to get across the city.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's nice to be in a bigger city. I'm just like, so there's so much music that I've wanted to see that I
Hmm.
can now see, which is awesome.
That is
Um,
cool. I
Yeah,
was
and
in London.
lots more going on in the music tech scene as well. We've gotten involved with the user groups here. There's two user groups going on in London.
The Ableton Live user groups.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And bunch of link jams happening. So there's
Mm,
lots of cool music tech stuff going on, which is fun.
that is cool. Those are fun. The link jams. They are. It's just so nice
Yeah,
how
yeah,
easy it is and how it just works.
yeah.
I think of
I
that as like funny technology. Like it's sort of like a case where I think the technology sort of took us away from the logical way of doing things. Because when we had like MIDI sync, you had like the master and the slave, and if one stopped, everybody stopped. And
yeah,
we'd been going with that for like what 30 years or so before like we realized, hey,
exactly. Yeah,
why does everything have to stop if one person stops, and what do we need a master for? And it
yeah,
was just like
exactly.
kind of this must have been like a funny like common sense discovery somebody had over in Berlin,
So
and just
yeah,
makes such a huge difference.
yeah, exactly. No, I've had lots of because I used to run the user group in Cape Town as well, and we did
Hmm.
a bunch of link jams. I had so many cool experiences with people just who've never even used Ableton before, just coming in with a phone, with an app, and just getting involved and jamming along. They don't
I've
have to worry too much because everything's in tempo. They can just hit a bunch of buttons, and so it's really cool.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like you can be I've been with people that don't even play music and just be like, "Oh, download this app." And then next thing you know, we're jamming. And they're like, "Wow,
Yeah,
making
exactly.
music. I never did that before."
Yeah, no, it's great.
The doors for anyone to be a musician are like wide open these days, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I had the last link jam that we had. My entire role, because I'd forgotten to bring my iPad, so I just had my phone, and I downloaded I think it's the Link to MIDI app. But
Uh-huh.
all that can do is change the tempo. So my entire role for the whole jam was I was just in control of the tempo. So if I felt things needed to chill out a bit, I just slow the tempo down, speed it
Nice.
up. It's quite an interesting role to have.
Yeah, I think that like just sends out like a click, right? Just
Yeah,
basically
exactly.
a click to some device, and yeah, that's cool. That's a funny job. It's like kind of like a conductor.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys, I guess, have like a pretty good community of users. People get together for the meetings. You said you had two groups in London.
Yes, there's one at Point Blank,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah,
a bit of a smaller one. Those are usually about like 7 to 10 people, which is really nice because it's quite informal and we can just sort of chat. People share sort of their own things that they're working on, and everyone kind of gets involved. And then there's another one which is yeah like a little bit bigger. I just presented at that one on Monday actually. I had
oh, very
a
good.
presentation, and that's about 30 to 40 people, so it's a bit of a bigger one.
Yeah,
Um, which is great though because I mean the city is there's definitely like very much sort of scenes and areas, so it's good to have two that people can go to one closer to them if they want to. It
yeah, nice. What were you presenting about?
was really fun, which I'm hoping to do a video about it soon. But the title of it was 20 things you probably don't know about Ableton Live but really should. And it was just like a quick fire of things that people just because through teaching a lot, I often come across things that people don't know about Ableton. It's like a tiny little thing. For example, how to change the click volume with the
Mm.
little sort of blue headphone thing, which I didn't know. It took me about 2 years to figure out, 2 years of using Ableton to figure out how to do that. And so I have students all the time. They're like, how do I change the volume of the click?
It's too loud.
Um, yeah, exactly. So it was like a sort of a quick fire of just tons of those little things. How to set up like how to set up a default set, how to save device presets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Nice practical things.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love like anything that'll help my workflow a little bit. Just speed things up and make it more comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the idea.
I think it's taken me so long to feel like I'm making music like with my computer instead of like against my computer.
Yeah.
I didn't really ever get that feeling until I came to using Ableton Live. I was using Logic and I was getting pretty good with Logic where I felt comfortable, but there would still be like, inevitably every time I went to make music, like a half an hour of me like scratching my head, pulling my hair out, be like, what is going on? Why is this not working?
Yeah.
So anything that can like take you out of that, out of risk of being in that moment where you just get frustrated and lose all your inspiration is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
It's maddening when you can't do what the things you have in your head, what you want to do, or when you're on a roll and like something happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very much like I'm a bit of a productivity nut, so I'm like all about optimizing my workflow and like I'm constantly looking for little things I can do to maybe shave off that 1 second that takes me to do something. So I'm definitely into figuring out all those sorts of things in Ableton and
Yeah,
beyond.
if you can cut out like a minute or two on a couple little things here and there, and you figure over time, you add that up over the year, it could be a couple hours of producing time, and
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can get some serious work done. And then
Yeah.
very fun. So
Mm.
cool. That's nice. You got something going there. On Long Island, we don't really have anything at the moment. We've had a few meetings here and there, but nothing very consistent. It's been a few years now, really. But I really am interested in doing it again because I love that, like getting together with other people, sharing ideas, just
Yeah.
seeing how people are doing things, and understanding their workflows and their techniques and tricks is always, that's my favorite part probably about teaching is all the learning
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had when I started the user group in Cape Town, I had like this notion in my head of, oh, cool, I know a heck of a lot about Ableton, so I'm gonna sort of do these things and show people. I probably won't learn very much myself, but I'll just kind of share stuff with people. And then had like the complete opposite experience and just learned so much just from the different ways that people work and different ways they do things, different approaches. So for anyone who's listening who hasn't been to a user group, find a user group near you and go check out an Ableton user group.
Yeah, great idea. Because I think, and this is one of the reasons why I have this podcast going, why I started my blog. Is like there's only so much the people close to you want to hear about how you, you know, set up a track of dummy clips so your effects are automated, and you drop the threshold on your compressor a couple dB and it made all the difference. No one really cares or even knows what you're talking about. So you need to get around other people that are as nerdy as you about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So how many other certified trainers are there around your area?
In New York City, there's a few. There's a bunch. I don't think there's anyone else on Long Island right now. I know there used to be Josh Bess, but he moved to Japan.
Oh yeah.
So he's doing his thing there, and I've seen him do some tutorials in Japanese, which was pretty cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, I don't know what the scene's like there, but I guess he's enjoying it there quite a bit. But yeah, there's a bunch in the city, and once in a while there's like a meetup or user group or something, but nothing too structured that I'm aware of. For me, it's a little tough to get out there.
Hmm.
It's a good hour and a half of travel into the craziest city in the world, which
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard for me to like bring up the motivation to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm starting to realize I'm a little bit of a homebody. I like kind of just relaxing at home, taking it easy, nice and quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the website's good for that. If you can
Yeah.
just sit at home and
Yeah, well, it's allowed us all, I guess, to be a little, reclusive and still social.
yeah. how much time are you putting into the website? Is it in terms of like between teaching and other things that you're doing?
Um, that's a good question. I fill a lot of my free time doing something, related to my music exploits. And there's a lot of different areas, I guess, like the website's one, these podcasts is now another. Making my packs.
Mhm.
I try to do something every day. That's kind of like my own like kind of personal unofficial goals. I just try to be productive in some way. And even if it's not anything that like makes it on the internet or something, at least I'm doing some work. I
Yeah.
I think like if I can sort of trick myself into just getting down and sitting with an instrument or in front of the computer at a synth or writing, if I can just convince myself to start, I usually spend some time on it. But it's for me, the getting started is always the challenge. It's a lot easier to stay, motionless or on the couch or just whatever else comes up. But
Yeah.
I try
Yeah.
to make it a point to do something every day.
Nice.
Sometimes
Yeah, it's a
it's
good.
a few minutes, sometimes it's a few hours.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, how about you? I see you're kind of been a bit active lately, I've noticed. I've been
Yeah.
checking
So
out some of your stuff.
yeah. Sort of when we arrived in London, it was kind of like it was just a new opportunity because I'd sort of been bogged down a bit in Cape Town with just things that had built up over the years and various sort of students. And I've had the website going for maybe 3 or 4 years, but haven't really dedicated proper time to it and just kind of did things here and there where I could. So when we got here and I had no students, I had no sort of jobs lined up, just a lot of free time and trying to figure out how the heck to make a living here.
Hmm.
So I thought, why not give the website a go? Yeah, so the last few months have definitely been the busiest I've been on the website, which it's been great. The response has been really good.
And that website is ELPHNT, which is spelt ELPHNT.
Yeah,
Is that
D-
.co? .co?
yeah, that's .co.za, which is the South African domain.
Okay, so yeah, it's like elephant without the second E or the A. How did you
Yeah,
come up
I
with
thought
that?
it's actually so just from elephant was it didn't I didn't come straight to the abbreviation. So it was actually from for quite a while I've had this name, the name Elephant, that I wanted to use for a project, and it started sort of when I started making solo music. It was going to be sort of a performance moniker that I'd use, and it comes from this experience that I had on a game reserve trip in I think it was in Botswana actually. Um, and we very lucky down in South Africa. We sort of quite regularly go on safaris and game reserve trips. But on this particular trip we went on, we came around. So we were driving. We came around a corner, and there was an elephant on its side with like a big gaping wound, sort of in its stomach, and it had obviously just been in a fight with another elephant, and it was clearly on the way out. But what was really amazing was there were all the sort of scavengers and predators starting to gather, lots of hyenas and vultures, but the elephant was still alive,
Oh boy.
and all the rest of the herd had formed like kind of a circle around this elephant to just protect it while it was still alive. So we watched this for a good half an hour, and then sort of headed off to go and do a bit more exploring. And then we came back. Sort of just it must have just been as this elephant was dying because there was still the rest of the herd around it. But then just at one point, when I assume was when the elephant died, the herd just all sort of stepped back to safe distance and let all the predators go in and just sort of now eat the dead elephant and get their kind of share, which I thought was kind of a
Wow.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
yeah, it was just like sort of this magical natural thing. That while it was still alive, they sort of protected it, and then as soon as it had died, they just let everyone else have their share. So
I
it
have.
was kind of
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, it
Go
was
ahead.
kind of at that point that I was like, I kind of gained a really deep love for elephants,
Hmm.
um, and so that's yeah. Then the name sort of just stemmed from there.
I have to imagine that it's got to be pretty difficult to be there and watching like, nature unfolding really in some of its, I guess, most brutal forms right in front of your eyes. Our nature is so like civilized and, most of the time, but like
Yeah.
there's a real harsh reality. What is it like to kind of have to watch that? I guess you can't interfere. Did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely just can't. And I've been on several game trips before and seen like lion kills. We saw the one time we literally saw a cheetah kill sort of happening in the instant. We were just sort of driving along, and this antelope came out of the tall grass, and then right behind it came two cheetah, caught it midair, and sort of pulled it down and
Wow.
proceeded to kind of eat this thing. But you just have to, you just got to let it happen. And that's,
Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah,
can't really interfere, but I have to
but
feel
it's,
like there must be a part of you that's like wants to help.
yeah, no, it is kind of, it's a kind of a beautiful thing. And I've been really fortunate to have lots of those experiences, having lived in an area where we can have that and have that sort of access.
Yeah.
Um, so I actually have at some point in my future plans to do other similar projects, also using animal names that so like antelope, but ANTLP,
Right. Minus the
various
vowels.
animal names minus the vowels. So the minus the vowels thing came afterwards because I was at the time I was listening to a lot of Mastercraft
Hmm.
and a lot of Subtract. I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just elephants just by itself is a bit boring. Maybe I'll just take out the vowels.
Right. And you can Google
Um,
it now too.
exactly. Although you still the word elephant comes up, so Google's
Did
smart
you
enough to
mean?
realize that exactly.
That's funny.
Um, yeah, so that's the elephant genesis story.
Hmm. Now, do you think that those other projects will be music related or other kinds of stuff? Because I've seen also you've got some art going on your site too.
Yeah, I don't know really. They
Hmm.
more in all honesty, anything else I probably do, I would probably just label it as elephant. Kind of wanna more the have the names almost as the kind of piece of art,
Okay,
just as a
nice.
different name. Um, but it's taken me sort of 3 years to get into doing stuff as elephant, so
Hmm.
it could be a very long time before anything else happens.
I hear you on
I'll
that. I
see.
mean, AfroDJMac. If I had to do that over, I would
Where,
not call myself that.
so where does that come
It's just
from?
stupid. I think my buddy and I were just like for fun making up like rap songs. Like we're not rappers or anything, but we were just amusing ourselves. And I just thought that was a funny name for a rapper. I don't know why I took it so much further than I did, but as soon as I started like getting any attention, I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to change my name and lose it." And then the further I go along, it's like I should really change it. But I'm like, "Oh, I've done all this work," and now it's like I should have changed it 3 years ago. I should have. I don't know. Now I'm just stuck with it, I guess. It's a little lesson in life that I can constantly remind myself of. But it's just a play on the word aphrodisiac, and it was like, musical
Yeah,
love machine. I don't know. It was not
nice.
thought out too
I,
hard.
I thought maybe there was something to do with you had an afro at the time, and there was some other story to it. But
No, no, there's no good reason for it. It's just what it is.
and so that started as like a performance name, and then moved into the website and the packs after that. Or,
Yeah, kind of at the same time, really. I don't think I would have stuck with that idea for any amount of time had I had the chance. But yeah, it was just kind of like the thing that was happening at the time when I started reaching more people. So,
yeah.
you stuck with it.
How,
And I've
how long
always
have you been
like,
going with the site?
I started it, I think I started the site March 2011. So
Okay.
6 years and change, something like that anyway.
Yeah.
And I'd been like really just wanting to document the stuff I was doing because I'm an English teacher, for the real job, my grown up
Okay.
part of my life, and I do a lot of writing. So I wanted to do that and keep track of what I was doing and put my work out there. And it really wasn't until I started sharing things that other people can use that I really ever got any traction or following. I guess like sharing your music for free isn't enough anymore
Yeah.
because everyone's doing it. There's so much noise, and the way I was able to get through a little bit was by supplying like things for people that they can use, whether it was tutorials or the live packs, instruments and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having this conversation with someone the other day about how the sort of music playing field is so oversaturated at the moment. Every sort of, and again, with like we were talking about with Link, how easy it is for absolutely anyone to just make music.
Yeah.
Um, so there's just so much music around that it's hard to get into it because there's just so much competition. Whereas something like doing packs and sound design, that sort of stuff, is still a relatively kind of open playing field. Yeah, so it's a fun space to be in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's there's a lot of room to explore, and you're doing something that's helping other people make music too, which is
Yeah,
fun.
I mean that's always the best part of it for me is like seeing comments on YouTube videos or getting people who email after they've downloaded the pack and saying,
Hmm.
"Oh, this is awesome," and that's always the best part of it for me.
Yeah, yeah, to hear what people do, like, because you don't know where the stuff goes. I mean, maybe you get an
Exactly.
email address or something, but you really don't know who's using it for what purpose, and it's always a surprise. There's always an
Yeah,
interesting use, and it's fun to think like you had some hand in that happening, and I
exactly.
like that a
Yeah,
lot, and then even like the teaching and the tutorials. It's fun to think that like maybe that's something that helps somebody put together, you know, one of their tracks or get through some sort of block. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always sort of think back to the time when I was getting started, um, just watching all of Tom Cosm's tutorials,
yeah, I watched
and
probably all
and
of
then
them.
and just thinking that there's someone out there who's exactly the same stage I was at 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and what and so like when I do video tutorials, I'm often thinking like what would I have wanted 10 years ago when I was just learning? What kind of tutorial would I want? How would I want to go about learning Ableton?
I think that applies for like anything, like
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is you're doing. Like we all have some sort of unique experience or perspective on it. And whether it's just like you're a guy who just got all this gear and you're trying to figure out how to set it up, and you learned how to set it up last night. There's another person somewhere who's got it the next day and they don't know how to do it, and you're able to help them there. And
yeah,
and sometimes it's just your own personal taste in music that's interesting, or the way you're able to find sounds.
yeah, exactly.
It's something I try to put a lot of focus on when I do my teaching, whether it's this sort of stuff or whether it's even with my high school students, is to let them know like you have something to offer, even if it's that you don't have anything to offer. So I can remember one kid in particular I had was he didn't think he had like any real talent or reason, and I was making my students write their own blogs on the internet, and
Nice.
one thing that he was into was collecting shoes, like sneakers, like basketball shoes, which
Yeah,
has become like a huge thing with
yeah,
the kids these days.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
And I was like, you're an interesting person because here you are, you're an 17-year-old kid and your particular taste in shoes, like, don't you think that maybe like the manufacturers of those shoes want to know what kids your age want and what they're into, what they're excited about, and other people are interested in collections and things like that. And he kind of caught on to that and like put together some nice work, and it was all just from the not being shy about who he really was, which was just a kid, really, 17-year-old kid with this interest and passion for something. And I think
Yeah,
that's a great way to go about it, is to not like, he wasn't pretending to be an expert, although like in my eyes, he kind of was compared
yeah,
to me, especially. But it was just sort of documenting his journey, and it was pretty cool. And it kind of taught me a lesson that, play to what you are, to your strengths, and don't be, you know, don't pretend to be something you're not. Be what you are, because there's a lot of people that need to hear it from that kind of person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a very important thing for people to hear, especially sort of young artists and people who are just getting started.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's always something that you can share that people will be able to value.
Yeah, I think when you're kind of new at stuff too, you have that fresh perspective that sometimes you lose the more you get involved in the conventions and the norms of whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah,
And you can bring that to the table for people.
yeah,
I've learned a
yeah,
lot from people
exactly.
that had no idea what the hell they were doing. And even when they were making mistakes, I was like, oh man, that was cool. What'd you do?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So, one thing I love about your site, I love all the art. Like I mentioned that a second ago, but like the way, like even just when I look at like your sample packs, the little like art you have, the little gifs with like I'm looking at like tape. This is which is an analog tape machine emulator for Ableton Live audio effect rack, and you got just like the reel to reel spinning and the little meters going.
yeah,
That stuff's really
yeah.
nice. So, do you have
Uh,
some background in art, graphic design, or something you picked up?
I studied art in school, although I think it was my lowest mark. I was hopelessly awful at art, um, which I now in hindsight blame on my teachers. I wanted to do. I mean, we were never ever offered sort of like digital art in school, and
Mm.
I've always been into computers and been very nerdy. Um, I can't draw at all, but if you put me in front of a computer, I can create things that look relatively decent because I know how to. Not necessarily because I have really good art skills, but because I know how to use a computer quite well.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of the art has actually come out of kind of, I'm a little bit obsessive and a bit of a control freak. So it was when I started doing music really, and kind of putting out stuff on SoundCloud. And I was like, well, I need some artwork for this. I could hire a graphic designer or I could just do it myself. And so it sort of started with that, and then finding like a graphic design program and teaching myself how to use that, and doing really basic. I think I still have somewhere like some of the first artwork that I did from like way back, which I look at that much in the same way that I'm sure most people look at like early tracks that they did.
Hmm.
I look at that, I'm like, oh man, what was I thinking? This is horrible. And then it's just gradually just grown from there, just kind of out of necessity, and again being a bit of a control freak and wanting to do it all myself. Um, so when I started the site, like I've always been a massive fan of GIFs. I'm very much into like that sort of internet style of
Mm.
art, like
Yeah,
the very gify,
Tumblr.
lots of yeah, yeah, exactly the Tumblr
It's like
kind of
its own
thing.
genre of art almost.
Exactly. So when I put out my first pack, I was just like, what am I going to do for artwork for this? And part of also a lot of sort of how I think about things is I tend to probably overanalyze things. And so I think about like, what are people going to see in the artwork that's going to make them want to click? Like, what's going to be the best image to grab people's attention? What's the best headline? So for all my packs, I'll do maybe 5 to 10 different options for a cover art, and then kind of let them sit for a while and come back to it a couple of days and say, well, which one grabs my attention the most? Which one's the most interesting? If I were someone looking to get packs, which one's going to catch my attention? Because that's the funny. I mean, it's the funny thing with making audio packs is the first thing that the experience people have of it is what they see, not what they hear. So it's like, how are you catching people's attention with the visual? And also, how does the visual describe what's in the pack? So like tape, obviously, is a prime example. Anyone who sees that image immediately knows, oh, it's something to do with a tape machine, and they're intrigued. Um, so generally trying to do that with a lot of my covers for my packs, is show something that people are going to immediately see it, and before they even know what it is or have heard it, they know exactly what the pack is about. And then I just have a lot of, otherwise I just have a lot of fun doing it, because it's kind of a thing for me that's like almost an escape from music, because the majority of what I do is music, and I get to a point I'm like, I just want to not do music for a while. So it's nice to have that as a bit of an escape and just do a bit of graphic design for a while.
It's funny
Yeah.
how you mentioned that about the visual being the first thing, because that's something that drives me kind of mad when I make my packs. Is like, I've finally done collecting things, putting things together, tweaking them and whatnot, and then I have to go and do like the visual part, and I'm like, ugh. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's definitely not one of my strengths. Um, I can draw a little bit. I'm a very cartoony drawer artist, I guess, if I can
Yeah.
take the liberty to call myself that. But when it comes to like doing digital stuff, I just always feel like it just looks like garbage. Like it's messy,
Yeah.
or and it's the part that I feel like I have the hardest time with, and I'm the least motivated to do that part, honestly.
Well, I think your pack covers are great because I mean, generally you use like it's a photo, and
Usually,
it
because
does
that's
it
easy.
does the same it does the same thing as the animation though, because you immediately see the cover and it's like, oh, there's a MS-20 on the cover. I immediately know what's in that pack, so like it does what it needs to do. I just decided that I quite like doing the graphic designy sort of style because
Hmm.
it was, I mean, when I did my first pack, like maybe 5 of the 10 iterations were pictures,
Which one was
and the
that, by the way?
first pack was Earth.
Oh, okay. I thought that was newer.
Um,
Nice.
I recently did an update on it. Yeah, so that was actually the first pack, which is kind of also the sort of story behind that is the inspiration for why I started doing the packs side of things. Is So I came across one day, I came across a plugin which I won't name the plugin, which was like a kick making plugin. And it was like $100 for this kick making plugin. And I saw this thing and said, no, hang on a minute. Like I could make this in Ableton for like
Hmm.
$5. Why are people paying $100 for this kick thing? So then that's sort of set me on the course of designing these synth drums, which then it started with the kick. And then I was like, oh, well, this kick's pretty cool. And it's really flexible and I can do some fun stuff with it. I'm going to try to build a whole drum kit out of it. And so that evolved into the whole pack, mostly as like a thing for myself. And I still sort of do that to this day, is most of the packs I do will be based on something that I find I need. I very rarely will sort of say, oh, well, I think maybe people will be like into a pack of MS-20 sounds. It'll usually come from like, oh, I really want some MS-20 sounds, so I'll sample an MS-20 and then make it into a pack just because I've already made it into a pack for myself, so why not sort of put it out there?
I do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I make everything I make in sort of this selfish way, where I'm kind of
Yeah,
looking out for
exactly.
myself first. And it's not because I'm a jerk, but it's because I feel, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, where you just kind of own who you are and what your background and experience is. I feel like if it's something I want, there's got to be other people out there that want it too.
Well, exactly, and I think, and I mean, I get that feeling from your packs, and I hope that people get the same feeling from my packs. Is because it's useful to you, it's going to be useful to somebody else.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I know that not every single Ableton user out there has the same workflow or same style as me, but I'm not the only one. There's definitely other people that want to use the same tools, and so if it's something that really works for me, then it'll work for other people. So it's a good sort of acid test for it for a pack.
Yeah, and I think once you start trying to predict what people want, I don't know. I think it for me, I've found like stuff gets generic, and just kind of
Exactly, yeah.
I like
I mean,
made a dubstep pack once, and like I had no interest in dubstep music at all. But I was making this pack because I was like, oh, this is a hot thing, people want it, and I mean, what wound up happening, and it kind of worked out, is because it was starting to sound like so generic to me, I started doing my own thing to it. And
yeah,
next thing I know, it's not like so much that I'm using these for bass sounds, but it's like it's a cool weird pad sound up high.
yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, it's an interesting thing with, and it extends to music as well, that I've found with myself personally, is I often, and I mean, everyone has sort of influences and people they want to sound like.
mhm.
Um, And I often sort of frustrate myself because I'll sit down and make a song and be like, oh, I want this song to sound like this particular artist. And then I'll come out at the end and it's not sounding anything like that artist. And I have this moment where I'm like, well, that doesn't matter because it sounds like me.
Yeah.
And I've used that sort of core inspiration of wanting to sound like the other artist, and sort of then went off in another direction from their ideas and kind of made it my own. And I see that a lot with, especially with newer students, where they want to sound like a particular artist and they get really upset when they don't. And so I just say to them, like, that's cool. Your track sounds great. It doesn't sound like this big name artist that you wanted it to sound like, but it still sounds cool and it's got your own unique flavor. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of that kind of train of thought has like given me the liberty to be okay with trying to rip people off. Like when I make a track, like I might hear like a song, I'm like, oh, I want to make a track that's like one of these guys' songs or their song, or you know, I love how she does this in this track. I'm gonna do that too. And it might, my intention might be to like pretty much do the same thing, but it inevitably over the course of all the little decisions you make along the way, all the choices and the different directions you can take, I find it never really sounds like that.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's a great form of like motivation, like to get me to want to make music. I have these like two dueling sides with myself where I love the just I'm gonna explore and see what happens, you know, catch the
Yeah,
wind of destiny, and but most of the time I wind up just like listening to all my presets and kick drum samples. But when
yeah,
I set out to do something, it's just so much better. And sometimes it's I set out to make like a track that sounds like this band or this artist or this group. And you know, sure there have been times when I listen back and I'm like, all right, well that's no good. I can't share that with anybody. But still, it was a process that I went through, and there was things to learn, and sometimes even just little good things come out of it, even if it's not a whole track.
exactly. Yeah,
And I think in electronic music, even like digital, you know, computer music, I guess I find myself like having a harder and harder time like with those terms, electronic music, computer music, because it's like not a genre, you know, it's more like a process.
well, I'm interested to hear when you, like, if you meet someone new and you telling them what you do, what do you say? What am I? I, I've gone through so many terms. I'm an electronic musician. They say, well, what does that mean? I'm a computer musician. Well, what does that
Yeah.
mean? I'm a laptop musician. What do you say to
I usually
people?
say I do music. I get asked that a
What
lot
and
this
then
time of year. What are you going to do this summer? I do a lot of music. It's like,
and then when they ask the follow up question, what
then I
instrument do you
can,
play?
yeah. Well, I do play instruments. I play guitar and a little bit of drums, you know, little things like that. But
Yeah,
I usually start with I do music, and then you know a lot of people think that means I'm just you know sitting around with a guitar and a beer or something. But if they like start pressing me, like you know, I explain. Well, it's kind of a job too, but you know, you go into
yeah,
it. But yeah, I think like some of the other things I've said in the past, I'm a producer, I'm a sound designer, I'm a whatever, kind of raise more eyebrows and tilt more heads sideways than
yeah.
it's worth.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the funny thing with being I've kind of, I think I've sort of settled on computer musician. I know on my site at the moment, like in my
Uh-huh.
bio, it says computer musician
Uh-huh.
because I feel like it's sufficiently broad. Like I just make music with computers.
Right.
But I mean, as any modern computer musician nowadays, you're a sound designer, you're a producer, you're a musician, you're a DJ,
Hmm.
you're like all these things. So it's tough to describe like exactly what you do.
And I think it gives a weird impression because um, I recently recorded a bunch of songs that were like almost like punk rock songs, but I did it with a computer. And the
Yeah,
next thing I want to do is I want to do some songs with guitar, harmonica, like folky almost singer songwriter deal. But I'm gonna do it with a computer. And if I say like I'm doing computer music, like I don't think anyone's picturing that.
yeah, exactly.
It,
It's a
it
funny thing.
what I was thinking about before when we were talking about kind of ripping off styles and whatever, if we want to call it ripping off or borrowing or
Mhm.
or
If we
sucking
call it
motivation.
developing.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. I think like when I was learning guitar, I would learn Nirvana songs. I would learn Beatles songs. I would learn songs that people already had, cover
Yeah,
songs. But
yeah, yeah.
with electronic music, you don't really like learn cover songs really. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
you so I think you're kind of almost always doing more of a like I guess like trying to sound like an artist more than like doing a song. And I had that experience where it really kind of struck me was I was playing a show, it's probably about a year ago, and it was like a house party type deal. My buddy's got all these arcade games in his garage, and they have parties every once in a while. It's
Awesome.
my 12-year-old self's like paradise, their house. So
Nice.
for the party, I wanted to learn an old song that we all liked when we were younger, rental song. If you remember them, there was a side project. One of the guys from Weezer, they had the song
Okay.
"Friends of P." So it's got the cool thing about that band was they were like a rock band, alternative rock, but they had all the Moog synthesizers going in it too.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to cover, and I'll make it more electronic. So I'm like learning this song through the computer now, like on push and like with synthesizers. And it was a really cool experience. Like a couple things I learned right off the bat. I learned that the song was done to a metronome, even though it was like a rock, because it fit right in the grid as soon as I found the BPM.
Yeah.
But to have to like take like the guitar sounds and turn them into synthesizers and all these different elements and make the changes happen and whatever it is the song needed to do. I learned so much doing that. And then I realized I was like, that's what I used to do with guitar. That's how I learned so much of playing guitar was learning how to play other people's songs. So like learning how to produce other people's songs in a way I think is a pretty cool exercise.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, and I've sort of only just kind of had this realization right now. Is I mean, in all the teaching that I do, I don't have that approach of sort of looking at other people's songs. It's more about just sort of teaching the basics and how the software works and all that. But I've got a student, one of my new students here in London, is she's like massively into techno,
Hmm.
and it was sort of her impetus, is what she wanted to do is she wanted the structure of our lessons to be she'd bring in a techno track that she really liked and say, let's do that, let's copy this track, which is exactly what you were just talking about, which I'd never done before. Um, I mean, she's developed so quickly as well. And it's just a really different way of approaching learning about it. It's like, cool, what's that sound? How do we make that sound? What's the drum pattern they're using? Let's copy the drum pattern. And I mean, she's just really into just wants to make techno music. So if she wanted to sort of go off now and make hip hop, she'd have no idea what to do because
Hmm.
she doesn't really know those patterns and things. But the tracks that she's making, I mean, we've been doing lessons for like 10 weeks, I think, and she's already like making almost fully fledged like techno tracks.
Hmm.
So it's a really interesting thought about just the way to learn electronic production that that doesn't seem as intuitive as like learning cover songs on a
Yeah.
guitar would, but actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to try. And it actually just reminded me, and you mentioned Point Blank before, but it's Ski Oakenfull.
Yeah,
He does his like deconstructions of certain tracks every once in a while, where he recreates the track. He's basically doing a cover in a lot of ways,
yeah,
and that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. Like, how do I program that synth sound and like the parts of your mind that start activating when you are thinking that way? I think that's a huge skill, I guess, that can be developed when you want
yeah.
to do your own tracks. When you get this idea, I want this sort of sound, and you can kind of understand how to get there a lot easier, I think, with that experience.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be putting out a new pack soon, which is a bunch of synth presets, and sort of how I got inspiration for a lot of the sounds. Some of them are just sort of sounds where I sat down and played around, but a lot of them I'll just like go through my iTunes
Hmm,
and play a track and be like, oh, there's a cool, I like that synth sound. Let me
that's a
try
cool
and,
idea.
copy that. And I was thinking about it earlier today. It would be really fun, and I'm sure someone must have done it by now, but to do like an artist series of preset packs, like pick a particular artist, it would have to be an electronic artist, and listen to all their songs. It would be even cooler if you could get the actual artist involved, but like listen to all their songs and say, make a pack that has their presets and the sounds that they're using. So all those producers who want to go out and copy that artist can download the preset pack.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
But then you could sort of take it off in different directions.
Well, have you ever had that experience where you are playing with a synth or a plugin or something, and you come across like the preset that's used in some song, you know?
So actually, the funniest experience, which I'll always like remember for all my music making days. So I mean, how I got started in music production, as I think most people do, is through GarageBand. The high school I was at had, for the IT students, you could take out, I think it was a PowerBook, Mac PowerBook laptop. We weren't actually IT students, but we sort of befriended the IT teacher, and he let us take out these PowerBooks, and it had GarageBand on them. And we would just sit and like play around with the GarageBand loops and chuck them in. And there was this particular string loop that like I was totally in love with and went into all my tracks. And then maybe a year later, I don't know if you remember the band Fort Minor. I think it was the one singer from Linkin Park had this side project called Fort Minor. And it was a big track at the time. I think it was definitely like a top 10 sort of track. And I heard this track starts with that exact string loop from GarageBand. And I was like, that's my string loop. This guy's using my string loop and it's like in this radio hit. And it was like quite an interesting moment of realization for me as a really, really new music producer, that this like stock loop that I was getting from GarageBand was being used in this like top 10 hit song. And I was just like, oh, well, these big name artists are obviously they're doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing. And I'm sure it's true for a lot of tracks nowadays. If you listen to enough sample packs, you'll find the samples that are being used in like the top 10 hits and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a new phenomenon of probably this century, where like we said before, the tools are in the hands of almost everybody. That you might come across the same things. I think and again, this is another thing I'm going to say on the podcast that I could be totally wrong about, but I think that Tom York of Radiohead, when he did his Eraser album, used a lot of GarageBand loops and Apple loops, and could be wrong.
I mean, I would totally not be surprised at all. But it's another that goes back to that thing of like copying other people's sound, and I think the same applies to like presets and loops and stuff. It's always just a great starting point that you will ultimately make your own. And I had, for a very long time, I was very like opposed to presets. Sort of in my mid-producing years, when I was getting started, I was using presets all the time because it was all I knew. And then as soon as I sort of learned how to sound design and do my own sounds, I was like, oh, presets. I'm never going to touch those again because they just sound like everybody else. But then it was another certified trainer who sort of gave me this idea of like, well, actually, no, presets are great because if you take a preset, first off, you're only going to choose presets that sound good to you, which is already your sound. So you're working as a curator, and then you're going to tweak it anyway to get it to sound like how you want it. So even if you're starting from a preset or a loop, between the sort of the curatorship process and then the sort of tweaking process, it's going to end up sounding like you anyway.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with Tom York using some GarageBand loops because he's going to make them sound like Tom York. But I mean, the Eraser doesn't sound like a GarageBand album.
No.
It sounds like Tom York album. So.
Yeah, that's a cool way to think of it. And I guess, if you want to go down this route, if you think of like the piano as sort of like a preset, it's just a piano and that's just the sound it is, and it's kind of like loading up a preset of some synth that you have.
Every rock band ever has used exactly the same guitar preset.
Yeah, it's like a rock band format preset where you have your bass, your drums, and your guitar.
Your template set.
Yeah, it's the template project right there. 4 tracks.
Exactly.
So I guess, yeah, I know what you mean though. Like you kind of want to feel like you're doing your own thing, but there's so many other areas too where you're making decisions and trying things out,
Yeah.
with, experimenting and stuff. So I think your sound comes through either way.
Yeah. I mean, like hip hop is obviously a prime example of that with pulling loops together.
Hmm.
And even though hip hop DJs aren't creating the loops, they're functioning as a curator. They're just curating loops,
Sure.
and they choose loops that sound good to them and work for their style.
Or take just like the 808, you know, how
Yeah,
that's everywhere. That's just one drum machine,
exactly.
and that's, I guess, almost like a template now. If that's in the hip
Yeah,
hop template.
yeah, exactly. So there's nothing wrong with presets.
No, no. I think as a musician, it's very easy to get like snobbish about certain things. Where like coming up with your rules, like your things, your standards for quality. I'm not going to use presets, or I don't use pedals on my guitar, or I don't use auto tune, or whatever you want to decide you have a problem with that you're ethically above musically. I
Yeah,
think it's easy to fall into that. And some of the biggest breakthroughs in my life are when I've let go of those
yeah,
and
exactly.
explored those things. And there was a time when I was a teenager where I wouldn't listen to music if there was a drum machine in it, just because I felt like drums were like the heart and soul of the music, and it needed to be human. And I mean, I look back on myself, I'm like, I want to just whack myself in the back of the head, and be like, stop it, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I went through exactly the same phase because I'm a drummer originally, and I come from a rock background.
Uh-huh.
And there was definitely a time in my teens where it was like, oh, electronic music. I don't listen to. That's not real music.
Right,
I don't want to
right.
listen to that. And now I'm the one preaching to other people about how no, electronic music
Yeah.
is perfectly real, valid music.
Well, I've
But
seen
that
that
was
the public perception change quite a bit. Because I can remember a time when if you saw like a MacBook on stage, you're like, what the hell's that? This guy's got a computer. Like, this isn't music. And now it's always there. And I can remember some of the first times I did my electronic music, and I had my computer and all my little blinking lights and everything. And there were like a lot of people that were like, oh God, dubstep. And it doesn't help that, I've had DJ in my name, and I don't even, not even a DJ,
yeah,
you know, but, it was, I saw a lot more, resistance to that in the early days. And a lot of it probably was too that like I, like you, came from the rock background. So when I wanted to do my electronic music, all my friends are into rock music, and that's where my circle of musicians were. So I'd play with rock bands,
yeah,
be the weirdo for the night. But they
yeah,
can come around, I guess. Maybe it's just a whole cultural thing. And
yeah. I mean, electronic music is really only just over 30 years old, essentially. Oh, I mean, it's been sort of going longer
yeah,
since the 60s and synths and stuff,
sure,
I guess. But like electronic music, like kind of exclusively electronic music, where everything in the song was electronic, is really, I suppose, like sort of late 70s, 80s, kind of.
yeah. Well, especially now when you think about like it being in the hands of everybody, that anyone that buys an Apple computer has GarageBand. So
Yeah,
they've got the tools now where that's definitely changed. I mean, what's that? 10, 15 years probably.
yeah,
So that's a big difference, and that's got to really, the next generation coming up, I'm sure, they see it a lot differently than we do.
yeah.
I think I heard something recently like where like on like the Billboard top 10 pop charts, like there wasn't one guitar in any of those songs at some point recently. And it was just
Huh.
like, wow, like it's never been like that in like ever
Yeah,
since we've been keeping track of this stuff.
yeah.
So,
Why the one of my bandmates in the band I still kind of semi play with, he does a lot of work for like ad agencies, doing adverts and stuff. But part of what he does to pitch to ad agencies is every year he does this talk called A Year in Music,
hmm.
which he does like a trend analysis of the previous sort of year.
Oh, cool.
And part of that, yeah, it's a really awesome talk. It's really interesting to watch. You should actually record it and put it online. Now that
I
I
was
think
just going to
about
ask you if we can find it.
it. Yeah, I don't know if it is online, but part of that is he sort of analyzes the Billboard top 100, and they use it a lot to sort of make predictions for sort of what styles are going to be in, so they can pitch to their ad clients about what sort of styles to go for. But at the particular talk that I went to of his that I saw, I think I went to the one maybe 2 years ago, and he mentioned exactly that. He was looking at the Billboard top 100, and there were like 3 or 4 rock bands in the top 100 kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just like, sort of one of the comments they made was how the shift to electronic music has just almost completely taken over, and rock is just on its last legs.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I saw some sort of like analysis of some trends in music, but it was with the lyrics. And it was like one of those things that makes you like kind of fear for the future of humanity. Because like it was, and again, I'm not sure exactly what the words were, but like they were looking at like, common song topics and most frequent words that were showing up in the songs. And like back 30, 40 years ago, it was like love, heart,
Yeah.
soul. And now it's like booty and like, and, like YOLO. It's like all these like funny, like, much less deep words. You got to see if I can find that and put that in the show notes. But it was interesting how like the subject matter has changed too in our music and our culture, and for all the I guess like power that music had in like social movements back in the old days compared to now.
Yeah, well, I was watching because I watch a lot of American late night shows, and I think it was actually on Bill Maher. Ice Cube was on Bill Maher recently, and I think he's done like a reissue of his of the original NWA album, and Bill Maher asked him, he was like, so what do you think of rap nowadays? And he said, he was like, all the rap nowadays like is about going to the club and like booty and all the babes. Whereas, like in the early days of rap, it was like heavily political, and how it's just become commercialized as a genre. And there's obviously still people on the fringe sort of doing that kind of thing. And I guess it ultimately happens to all popular music genres, is they just get commercialized and sort of sell to the highest bidder, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's
glamorous,
interesting the way those
image
trends go.
Too, I guess.
Exactly.
Where
exactly.
You're throwing your money on the hotel bed compared to some of the more serious things we'd rather not look at. The harder issues.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you listen back to like the NWA, and the track he was talking about was "Fuck the Police," and like there's still all the same issues with police brutality and that sort of thing, but there's not really that many songs about it. I'm sure there are. I mean, like there's lots of artists, like Kendrick is obviously doing some really interesting stuff in hip hop, but the general kind of mainstream thing is not that attitude. Whereas at that time, there was like NWA and Public Enemy, where like that was the thing. So it's interesting how the trends change.
Yeah, it is, and I would imagine that. Well, even like the fact that hip hop was getting through back in those days was kind of like a surprise to everybody. That like it was hip hop is a fad, and that it wasn't. That was the whole idea. Just I guess, that it was just this thing that was happening, but it was this isn't gonna last. But then they made it last, and now they're squeezing every dollar and cent out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It will be interesting to see where things end up in the next. We'll have to have another Skype in 10 years' time, and
yes,
see where we're at.
We'll be longing for the deep, meaningful music of today. When we were singing about going to the club and getting booty and stuff.
Yeah.
That's all about nothing now.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted you to know that I've been enjoying some of your packs that you have here. I was especially having fun with Earth and Tape and the synths one you just. I think synth is new, right? Am I wrong about that?
So I put that out today. The plan was to put it out today. I put it out kind of early this morning, and then are you using Gumroad for your store?
Yes.
So I put it out just kind of and put out the YouTube video for it, and I'm because usually what I do is I'll put out the YouTube video and then I'll send out an emailer to my sort of mailing list. But fortunately, before I did that, I had an email from someone who was like, I downloaded the free version and I want to sort of download the paid version, but Gumroad's not letting me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever had this issue where, because in Gumroad, I use like the tier thing where you can set multiple sort of tiers within the product. And it seems like people who have downloaded the free tier can't then like upgrade and buy the full version. So the short answer to that is I sort of put out synths today, but I'm kind of holding back doing any sort of publicity about it until I can sort out that issue.
Right.
So I've mailed Gumroad to try and, because the last thing I want is people not being able to download stuff.
Yeah. I've never done that option where you can have the different like kind of tiers and free, paid, or like deluxe or something.
Yeah.
I've never done that, so I can't tell you for sure. Because usually the way when I put out a pack, I like to give like something for free out of it too,
Yeah.
as much as I can, and I'll usually do that as like a separate download. That'll be like a separate thing I upload to the software to sell.
Yeah.
But I did notice you had that actually, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It looks nice. But I wonder if it's just a difficult thing to find, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure
clean.
I'm not sure what the best. Exactly, that's sort of why the neat freak in me does it that way.
Which is something I love about your site, by the way. It's like it's so neat and clean. I love the
Thank you. That's just my obsessiveness. But so depending on what Gumroad support gets back to me about the issue, I may end up going your route and doing separate. Because I also like to do the same thing where every download I put out, if it's a paid download, have a free option. So
yeah,
because I mean I know from personal experience, I hate like downloading something and just sort of going in and paying for it and then not liking it or not finding it useful. So it's nice to be able to give people like a little teaser. Although I've been toying with your idea of the guarantee, the refund guarantee thing that you do, which I think is really cool. I'm kind of not brave enough to promise that. Although if ever anyone, I've had lots of people who will mail me and say like, oh, this isn't working or it's not what I wanted, and I'll happily issue people refunds. But yeah, I'm really always impressed by your like no questions asked refund policy, because it scares me.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'll say a few things, and this is not a paid endorsement at all. Gumroad is awesome. I love Gumroad. I've used a few different services. I like what Squarespace has built in to it. Was nice too. But Gumroad for me, I use Topspin, and I don't know what's going on with Topspin anymore. They are like, I don't think it's a real thing, so I wouldn't. I don't think they're really working on it anymore. But anyway, Gumroad has always been awesome. Whenever there's a problem, they're great. And as far as the money back guarantee thing goes, they don't take any. It doesn't cost you anything, like they refund the customer completely. It doesn't cost you anything. And like you said, I'm the same way. Like, I don't want to buy something and then realize I don't like it. I mean, I remember being like a kid, especially buying like a Nintendo game, spending like what was a fortune to me. I can't even believe I ever used to do this, but like spending all that money to buy a Nintendo game and then it sucks and there's nothing you can do. It's the worst. So I hate buyer's remorse. So for me, it's like a way to just say, look, don't worry about it. And it's not a cost to me to give that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
no, I've definitely been thinking that I'm gonna add that.
There's maybe a few people here and there that might try to take advantage of it. Whatever, you got me.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, that the kind of saying like, "Hey, you can trust me," and um, you know, if you really don't like it, you'll get your money back.
Yeah.
Is worth whatever I lose, and maybe there are even people that are trying to scam me and forget to ask for their money back. So who knows? I mean, it might work out better off than that way too. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, your stuff is great though,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't
I
think
think
you have anything
I
to
think
worry
it's a
about.
great thing to do. So
Yeah, I think your stuff is awesome. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I actually,
thanks,
if you
man.
don't mind, I was before we spoke today. I was playing around with some of your stuff. I was playing around with the Earth drums, which I love,
Yeah.
which we talked about before. But it's all these like synthesized drums made from Ableton's Operator FM synthesizer, and then there's all the
Yeah.
macros. You can easily customize the sounds. I used the synths volume 1 that you have
Yeah.
the a few of those sounds, and then I ran everything through tape, and I made a little jam. If can I play it for you? It's like not even a minute
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. I'd
So
love
I
to
got
hear
it queued up in a clip here, and like I always love hearing like what happens with my stuff, and I'll play this
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
I'll just here we go. Hopefully it's not too loud or anything. It's only like a minute.
It's but yeah, actually the second person to do that today. I was chatting to a dude earlier who he's actually the guy who helped me figure out this issue that I was having with Gumroad, and I was just chatting to him, and he sent me I sent him synths, and then he's very like within like half an hour he sent me, he's like, oh, here's a track that I made with all synths.
Nice.
I was like, oh, this is awesome, and it was really cool though to hear, because often with packs when I release them, and I know we spoke about it earlier, how like we both like to make packs that are useful for ourselves, and like again with designing presets, I make these sounds that sound good to me and like work for the kind of music and style that I make. So it's great to hear someone else use them and get that validation of like, oh, it actually is useful and it doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah, well, so what I went through is I was just kind of playing around and seeing what they sound like. I had Earth in my download folder for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and just haven't gotten around to using it. So I wanted to know what I was talking about when we spoke. And so dogs, I told you they'd come up. So I just threw them inside a session in live, and like next thing I know, like 45 minutes were gone. I was working on a track, and it was just like right away I was pulled into them. So to me, that's a
Nice.
mark of like some good sounds where they sort of just motivate you to make music. And because sometimes you just like kind of listen to things, you fiddle with them and whatnot. But I mean, almost immediately, I drew in a little drum beat. It was all just on the drawing with the pencil tool even.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And I threw the tape on it. I was like, ooh, because I'm all about like that like lo-fi warm crunch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I went through some of the synths, and I was just like one after another. It was really just the first few I grabbed and just like kind of threw together this little piece of music.
Nice. Good to
So
hear.
yeah, so thanks. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the reality is I always feel like I'd love to, and I've just recently started a Patreon. I know you've got a Patreon as well, which I'm kind of feeling quite excited about. I actually started it ages ago, and then kind of got got over it a bit because I was like, oh, it's just like another thing that I have to post to. But now I've kind of gotten back into the idea because my ultimate goal with the site has always been I'd love to be able to just make stuff and give it away for free.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality obviously of what we do is that it takes time and effort, and we have to feed ourselves and pay rent and stuff, and charge for packs and things. But yeah, my ultimate goal is to hopefully get some support on Patreon and get to a point of being able to actually just, and it's one of my goals on Patreon, is to get to a point to be able to just put everything out for free, so that anyone can just get it. And one of the things that I really want to do more of, but the sort of earning to pay for rent and eat food part of me doesn't want to do, is make more videos. But videos that obviously don't have, you can get like ad revenue, but you don't get, there's not much like immediate financial reward from that.
Yeah.
So which I hate that, because I'd love to do more of them, but it's just necessity sort of thing.
Well,
But
I think that's awesome, you know, and I love the idea of sharing things too. I think there's like kind of a good karma that comes with that too. Though karma doesn't pay the rent.
yeah. I mean, well, the 150 free packs is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I've been working on it, and it's fun though. It keeps me busy, keeps me making stuff.
Yeah.
But I think all of this stuff kind of adds up, you know, like whereas, you know, maybe there's not much ad revenue on the videos. And I actually recently just took all the ads out of my YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I think I was earning like every 2 or 3 months, I was getting like $100, which was cool.
It's not,
I mean,
not amazing, but
it was cool, like in a lot of ways. But then I started thinking like, you know, I'd probably pay $100 to not have ads in my YouTube videos. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, I mean, maybe if I was making like some serious money, like then it'd be worth it. But I was just thinking like, I don't want these like stupid ads popping up in the middle of my videos or like before anyone can even watch them. And so I took them off, and I figured like it's almost like a purchase to me, you know? So, but I do think that like the overall just keep working, keep putting things out, like it raises like kind of the water level, you know, the tides and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what I think. I'll get back to you on some data at some point down the road, but
yeah. Well, it's funny about you saying about turning off the ads, because I've had literally exactly the opposite experiences since I started videos. I've had ads turned off because I just hate getting ads. I mean, I don't get ads because I have an ad blocker. But then maybe a week ago, I just posted on Twitter. I was like, "What's people's opinions on YouTube ads?" And every single person who responded was like, "No, I'm totally fine with it. If I know that the money is going to support the creator, then I'm happy to sit through like 3 seconds of ads." So I've actually now turned ads on. So I had the opposite experience of you. I've turned ads on all my videos. Which, like, if people want to use an ad blocker, then if they don't want to see ads, they can use an ad blocker and block ads. Because I know as well, like, and I have the same thing with buying music. Like, I'm really into Bandcamp. Is my favorite website on the whole internet. I'm really into like buying music on Bandcamp, because I know as a musician, I'd want people to do the same thing for me. And I've actually, since I've turned ads on my videos, I've started turning my ad blocker off on YouTube, because having like this realization of actually, you know, I want to help support these creators, and if I have to sit through 3 seconds of ads before I hit skip, then so be it. Although I recently pledged to, I don't know if you know Kurzgesagt, the YouTube channel.
No.
A really great YouTube channel. They do like sort of science videos. They're like these animated science videos.
Oh, cool. What's it called?
Really, Kurzgesagt.
Might need to spell
Like
that at some point. You can send me a link.
Kurzegezegt, maybe.
Okay, I'll look it up. I'll put it in the show notes.
But they do like really properly well done, well produced YouTube videos. And I recently just pledged to them on Patreon. They've got like on Patreon, I think they get it's like $20,000 per video that they put out, which
Wow.
is insane. But their $5 pledge, the specific reward for that is not feel guilty about having ad block on our YouTube videos. So now I don't feel guilty about that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think Patreon's a really cool thing. I really haven't gotten too far with it yet. Just kind of set it up recently, but
Yeah,
I think it's a cool way where the rewards are cool, but it's also just like this direct to the person, like hey, thanks kind of thing.
yeah, it's a really cool concept.
And there are some people that are doing like really great with it. Like you said, like
Yeah,
this company. I know like Cuckoo does great with it. Andrew Wong
yeah,
does really well. So it's nice to see like that people that are putting out like this high quality content consistently are able to like, there's like this like it's like kind of a faith in humanity thing, where people
exactly. Yeah,
recognize that and they're helping and they're pushing these people and they're able to do more and more and the quality of their work just gets better and better. So like
yeah,
everyone wins really. And just for what you can get these days from people sharing their knowledge and experience and their tools, for such free or almost nothing, I
yeah,
mean, like if you were at a bar, you'd buy them a beer, and it's just all there. It's great. It's a really cool thing that's happening. I'm excited about that. It's nice to see
yeah.
people doing
Exactly.
well with it.
It's a really interesting sort of revenue model for creative work, kind of going forward.
And
Is
it's
making it open and accessible. I mean, it's interesting, and I guess that's where the name Patreon comes from. Is that's how the arts
yeah.
used to be hundreds of years ago. Is there were just rich patrons who would pay to have this stuff made,
Hmm.
and then, although I don't think it would be freely available to the public. I think it would only be in the rich patrons' concert halls. Um, but that's how creative work was done. Art and music and all that sort of stuff was sponsored by patrons. And now it's just sort of democratized that, which is quite cool.
And it's a great test of the material, like if like you don't have to contribute to anybody if you don't want to, and it's a test of the work. And when somebody decides like, yeah, I'm gonna give this person $1, $5, whatever, it just shows what you're doing is working, and
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool like organic real life way of doing that in my opinion.
yeah,
Neat
yeah.
stuff.
I discovered on the patches. I know you had them, the Dan from
Yeah.
Patches on a couple weeks ago. I was on their site the other day, which is also I love the Patches site. It's great. Um, and then a little thing popped up at the bottom saying "Buy me a coffee."
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've seen that as well. There's
Yeah.
another site called Coffee, which is like a donation site, which I thought was quite fun. So I might
Uh-huh.
add that to my site as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Steal that from them.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at it too, because I think we probably in real life, you might if you were on the side of the street, playing your guitar or something, someone might throw you $1 and keep walking. But this is like is so much more value. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
It's cool that like I think it's probably in the long run good for the collective human knowledge and intelligence that we're able
exactly.
to
Yeah,
do this and support people that have like cool ideas. And because I don't think in the old models we have, pre-internet, pre-YouTube and all that, there was no way for like some like music producer to like speak to this small niche of people using a specific piece of software even or a specific instrument. And now that exists, I mean, you can
yeah,
find people that
exactly.
are doing awesome stuff with just an OP1, and
Yeah,
they've got a huge community and they're making some money off of it, and it's great.
yeah,
And that's so new. It's really exciting,
yeah. There's lots of cool stuff happening.
even though like maybe the subject matter of our pop music is going downhill.
Yeah,
At least that stuff is coming up in a nice way.
yeah.
So, do you have anything coming up? Any plans? Anything in the works? Anything you're excited about? in the near
So
future?
yes, so just got to figure out this thing with Gumroad, and then gonna hopefully push out the synths. So what I wanted to do is this synth to be part of like an ongoing series of presets, because I've never really done presets before per se. I've always done like Earth. I'd consider more of like an instrument or an effect rack. Um, so I think the next thing I want to do will be ops. I want to do, because I've been listening to a lot of, oh, I'm not blanking on her name, Caitlin Aurelia Smith, who does like a lot of modular stuff, and she's just got like ops everywhere in her music. So my next preset pack I want to do is just like really cool ops sounds.
Nice.
And I think you've got an op pack.
I did Korg MS-20 ARPs. So
Cool.
I sampled like just short little blips. I programmed a whole bunch of like bloops, kind of short
Yeah.
notes on the MS-20. And then I never really explored the arpeggiator device as much until I made this pack, like
Oh, yeah.
combining it with the scale device. And
Yeah.
because like you can like there's the steps control, which determines like how many steps it moves, and usually you would put it to an octave and it would
Yeah.
just go up by octaves, but you can also do it by like one step, two, three, however many you want. And I was having a lot of fun because normally that would just give you like random notes in no key, but then throwing the scale device after it, now you can start like holding down one note and getting like really interesting melodies just start playing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool, and I had a lot of fun doing that with that particular pack. And that, I
Yeah.
like that one a lot because you can kind of just throw that on and just like press a key and kind of you almost don't know what you're gonna get, but it'll give you something cool, and then you start
Yeah.
tweaking the knobs and you change it. Yeah, it was a fun one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much you can do with those devices.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be quite fun to do at some point, do a MIDI rack, just an exclusively MIDI rack of MIDI devices, create a pack like that. Otherwise, I definitely want to, as I said, I want to try to get more into videos. I've got like a bit of a backlog of video things that I want to get into. I want to do the talk that I did at the user group on Monday, the sort of like little quick tips Ableton thing. I want to do a bunch of like quick tips videos. I've had a lot of requests for people to do like a breakdown of tape, because there's a lot of because I made it in Live 9.7. It only works with 9.7 and up, and there's a lot of people who don't have 9.7, and we all know why they can't update.
I used to be that way.
But
Back in the old day, I think a lot of us started that way.
yeah, no, I definitely did. But so I want to do a video on tape, actually going through it and just talking a bit about like the concept and the logic behind it, so that anyone can just go and sort of make their own tape, whether they're using Ableton or not. Because it really is like the concept behind tape is nothing to do with algorithms or anything. It's just sort of based on like the logic of how a tape machine works. So you could do that with any DAW. So that's sort of in the works. But yeah, I use, I don't know if you know Trello. That's like a organizational tool.
No.
Great website. Anyone who's like super into productivity should check out Trello.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a to-do list manager kind of thing, but it's very visual and really easy to organize.
Nice.
So I've got a Trello board of just lists of like lots of ideas for video tutorials and packs and things that I want to do. So whenever I sort of finish a pack, I'll go through the list and sort of see, well, what do I feel like doing next?
Yeah.
Working on an update to a Spring, which is like my Spring Reverb rack. Just make that sound a little bit better. Got definitely some new modules for Earth.
Very good.
I tried, when I did the update recently, I tried to do cymbals, like 808 style cymbals, and cymbal synthesis is just so difficult to get like a decent sounding cymbal. So that's my next step for Earth, is to set up like an 808 style cymbal synth.
Most of the time I try to synthesize cymbals, they become these like alien world symbols. I abandoned the real emulation. I'm like, damn it, I got cymbals right next to me. I could just record them. I don't have
Yeah.
spaceship cymbals though. That's all I can figure out how to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of stuff in the works. I'll see
That's cool.
what happens. I really want to also start. Haven't sort of made my own or released my own music for quite a while. But I think music I've actually released are like the demos for the packs. So
Yeah, I'm finding myself with a lot of that too.
So I need to get back onto that. But let's see when that happens.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like some good stuff coming up. And there's definitely been a lot of good stuff in the past too. So if that's any indication, I'm definitely excited about that.
Thanks, man.
So cool.
Yeah, and yourself? What do you got planned?
I want to do more music for sure. I've got now a bunch of free time during the days now that school lets out. So I look to do some music. I want to play with people more. I miss playing in bands.
Yeah.
You know, just that like it's. I mean, look, I love making my electronic music and playing on push and turning knobs, but you know what? Like bashing on a guitar, hitting the drums, like that physical, like aggressive side, I do miss a bit. So I want to do some more of that. And I'm always doing the sound design stuff, the packs, the tutorials. So maybe get some video courses going. Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. But
nice.
But more than anything, making music.
Yeah, I'm on that same wavelength.
Which is good. That sometimes I make more sounds for making music than I do making music sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I gotta like now use all these things.
Yeah.
Because like we said before, like the ultimate motivation is like something you want to use, right? And
yeah, exactly.
It's like I want to use this stuff now. I want to put it to work. And sometimes you hear like other people putting out tracks with your sounds before you even get a chance to do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's a funny feeling, but it's cool. It's a nice thing. Very good. Well,
awesome.
We'll wrap this up. We'll say like a pretend goodbye, and then we'll say goodbye for real after we go off. But I want to thank Thomas Glendinning for being here with us. He's an Ableton certified trainer, formerly from Cape Town, and now he's in London, on the other side of the earth, basically.
Yeah.
So check him out in London if you're in the town, and definitely visit the site ELPHNT. That's spelled ELPHNT.co.za, or ZA, as you guys like to say.
Yeah.
But so much cool stuff to be had there, and stuff I like to use myself, and always some good tutorials. And if I can recommend people to go somewhere too, that post you did, it was about a year ago, the free live device alternatives. So it's like alternative free plugins for like all of the, I think you listed like every device in live, right?
Except just not the MIDI devices, because those are. So that was from it was actually from a Reddit post. Someone posted on Reddit and said, "Oh, I've got live light or whatever." But it's like, cool. I want to get like live. I want to get the sounds from Live Suite. Like, what can I do? Or I think they said, "Is there a list anywhere of things that I could use instead of them?" And I said, "There's not a list, but there should be."
Nice.
So I made a list, but that with much help from another guest you had on, Thomas Slav from Bedroom Producers blog.
Yeah.
Which is just the holy grail of music production websites.
Yeah, Bedroom Producers blog is awesome.
So I basically just took his list of free plugins and arranged it in an Ableton friendly way.
Well, we have at my school we have Live Light. We got those with that push incentive they did, where they were donating the old pushes to the schools, and every once in a while I'm like, oh, there's no Spectrum. I wanted to show you guys this, so maybe I can look at. I didn't think of doing this. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to install things on those computers, but but it's good to know that like for people that have this, that there are other options.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's been
Cool.
great having you on here. We'll have to do it again
great to be
sometime down the
chatting.
road. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about more. And yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put a whole bunch of this stuff we talked about in the show notes. So if you guys listening wanted to check any of that stuff out, it'll be there at afrodjmac.com/podcast. And again, Thomas, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, and thanks everyone for listening. Have a good day.